And it is 3 minutes past 2. I'm Olive Martini, and this is the Working on Wellness Radio Forum, which we do the second Wednesday of every month. And this is brought to you by the SQM Free Clinic, a service of the Dungeness Valley Health and Wellness Clinic. My guest today is Sherryl Chandley-Brown, and she is a health coach. Welcome, Sherryl.
Hi. Thank you.
A little bit louder. Talk a little bit into the mic there.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. Well, I'm relatively new to SQM. We moved here about a year ago. Originally from New Mexico. We retired there, built our dream home, lived there about 15 years, and went, nah, this isn't it. So we sold everything, moved into our RV, hit the road for 5 years looking for, okay, where do you want to go? Where do we want to live? And the only town that we both agreed on was SQM. So here we are, and people might know who I am. They might recognize me through my cat, because we're the ones who walk our black cat around on our leash. We've been in the paper. People know us at the farmer's market. They know us downtown. So people may not know me, but they know my cat.
And your cat's name is?
Sable.
Sable.
Yeah.
So you are a health coach. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, a health coach is an interesting term because it's one of those ones that's been used way too much. For example, someone who may sell supplements or other wellness products call themselves health coaches. The YMCA uses the term wellness coach for anybody who works in the gym part of the YMCA. But with health coaching, what I'm talking about is professionally trained, board-certified health coaches. So, for example, I am a national board-certified health coach, which means that I graduated from an accredited school. I took an intensive practicum, then I passed my national board exams, and then I have to maintain CEs to keep my certification. So health coaching is interesting. It's often been described as somebody as a guide by your side. We're trained in communication, behavior changes. We're also trained in nutrition, mental health, physical health, emotional health, maybe spirituality. We help people make those changes that, they've got good intentions, but trying to make those into habits that they can actually sustain, that's the hard part, and that's what a health coach does.
Talk a little bit about nutrition. Like if I were to come to you and say, I'm struggling, I know what I'm supposed to eat, but I don't do it, what would you do?
Well, we would talk about what it is that you think is keeping you from eating the things that you want to eat. We start out with, okay, well, where are you now? What are you doing? Tell me, I would want to know, what are you eating? How are you eating? We start there, see if there's any adjustments that need to be made. And then I want to know, okay, what does good eating look like for you? It could be, because good eating might look completely different to you than it does to me. So I want to know, what do you think is good eating? And just kind of move you slowly by slowly what you want to start going toward.
Getting into good habits.
Yeah.
So how did you become a health coach?
Well, remember I said that we retired into New Mexico, and I tried doing nothing for a while. That didn't work. I realized that I wasn't done, so I decided to go back to school, and I'd always been interested in nutrition. So I thought, all right, well, I'll just get my master's in nutrition. When I told my doctor what I was doing, he said, well, why don't you just open up a consulting firm, and that way I can send all my patients to you, because I don't have time to sit through and walk them through all this stuff. And that wasn't really the direction that I was thinking about for my career in nutrition. But the very next day, I met someone who graduated from health coaching school, and I said, wait, that's a thing? And so I started researching it. 2 days later, I was enrolled in health coaching school. The reason that I know that it's the right place to be from using what I learned even in graduate school is that I suffered for years with insomnia, digestive issues, stress to the max, brain fog so bad I couldn't think my way out of a paper bag. And when I started applying the things that I was learning in school, then slowly my stress level went down, and that helped me to sleep better. Then my digestion got better, and by the end of the year, my brain fog was gone. And that really made an impression on me, so powerful that I thought I need to help other people realize that change is possible for them too.
So who typically seeks out a health coach?
People go to health coaches for all kinds of reasons. Weight management is a huge one that people go for. Stress management. Maybe their doctor has said, you've got high blood pressure. I can either put you on medication or you can do this naturally. And people don't have a clue how to do that. There's for as many people as there are out there, that's as many reasons as people come to a health coach. And because there's so many reasons to come to a health coach, coaches tend to specialize. And it's not that we can't help everybody, we can. But for example, I help postmenopausal women. And most of the women who are coming to me have reached this stage of life, and they're looking around going, I probably have 20 years ahead of me, and I would really like those years to be good years. And they're seeing their friends maybe losing mobility. Maybe they can't do the things they wanted to do anymore. Maybe now all of a sudden they're struggling with a chronic disease, and they're going, I don't want to march down that path. And so those are the kinds of women that are coming to me. Maybe they're already starting to notice the same things I did, that brain fog, having digestive issues, not being able to sleep, overwhelmed by everything that they have to do.
And so do you work with people, give them a diet, or they come to you and you kind of help them get to where they need to be?
Yeah, I don't ever specifically give a diet. I never tell anybody, you need to eat this.
Okay.
I do have a couple of very general recommendations that I talk about. But what I do is find out what it is that you want to accomplish. And then you're the one that sets your goals. Everything is client driven. I don't have an agenda. And if two people came to me with the same issue, the thing that would be the most benefit to them may not be the same thing in each case. So it's so individualized.
What are some of the signs that someone might benefit from a health coach?
The biggest sign is that's okay. The biggest sign is those people who are saying to themselves, I know what to do, I just can't make myself do it. Or they're saying, well, my doctor told me I needed to do something, but I don't know how to do that. Some of the other things that might be, maybe they've tried something. Maybe they're trying to lose weight and they've tried this diet and this supplement and everything, and nothing seems to stick. So those are really good people for a health coach. Sometimes people are overwhelmed by all of the information that's out there because heaven knows we live in an age where there's way too much information, and some of it's conflicting. And so those people who just want some kind of clarification, that's a good person. Somebody who knows they want to be healthy or healthier, but they just don't know how to get started. So those are, maybe a chronic condition. I mean, a really good one is if your doctor said, okay, now you've got diabetes, high blood pressure, autoimmune diseases, some other of the chronic diseases. And there's a whole lot of ways that a health coach can come in, and if we can't reverse it, we can at least make your life a whole lot better and make your, those lab numbers please that doctor a little bit more.
So why do people struggle even when they know what they should be doing?
Well, the people think that, I know what to do. I should be able to do it, right? But life isn't that way because we're busy. We're pulled in so many different directions. We are trying to juggle so many things in our life today. Maybe you've got your caring for your spouse or your parent or your grandkids move back in, or, now all of a sudden you're trying to juggle finances when that wasn't your responsibility anymore. And by the end of the day, you have got zero bandwidth left to try and to take on a new habit and think about eating healthy. I mean, just that is the last thing from your mind, right? So that's one reason. The other thing is when people are stressed. And I would say that's all of us. I mean, we're all stressed. And when we're in stress mode, our mind and our body is focused only on one thing, making sure that we survive. So it doesn't care about you being intentional about trying to eat better or get that exercise. That's not important. I need to save you from that tiger that's out there. So when you're stressed, that's another big reason that why you can't do it. So those are the two biggest reasons why people struggle so hard. Another big reason, though, is that people are trying to solve the wrong problem. For example, I had a client come to me. She wanted to quit eating sugar. She thought that she was addicted to sugar and it was just a matter of willpower. Well, after we worked together for a while, she discovered that her craving for sugar only came when she felt like she wasn't in control of a situation. So once she knew that, she could start focusing on the root cause instead of blaming herself for not being able to have the willpower.
So how is coaching different from seeing a nutritionist, a therapist, or a personal trainer?
So a nutritionist will prescribe a specific diet. You would go to a nutritionist if you've got, you're lacking vitamin D, for example, or perhaps if you are a diabetic and you need a very controlled diet. That's where a nutritionist just shines. A health coach, I can guide you to eat more healthy, but I am never going to give you a very specific diet to follow. A personal trainer is focused on your exercise, physical activity, working out a way for you to train that's right for you. And again, I am going to encourage movement. However, I am not going to give you a specific exercise program to follow. Therapists, it gets a little more gray. Therapists are trained professionals. They're licensed, and they do focus on emotional and mental health. They are more looking at your past, what caused this, and they're looking at psychological patterns. A health coach is also looking at mental health and emotional health. However, we're not looking at the past. We meet you where you are today and say, okay, this is what's going on. Where do you want to be? And what's one small step that we can take to move in that direction? I'm not worried about all of the psychological things. We do work well together, and I have not shared clients, that sounds weird, but I have common clients. For example, if a client comes to me with they've got trauma in their past and they've got PTSD, I make it very clear to that client, that is out of my scope of practice. You will need to address those issues with your therapist. What we can work on is stress management around that. Does that make sense, what the difference is? Yeah.
So how have healthcare practitioners responded to health coaching? Very
well, actually. Functional medicine and integrative medicine doctors have been using health coaches for years. A lot of them hire them on into their clinics, and more generalized medicine is accepting it more and more now. The AMA actually came out and was talking about the benefit of having a health coach on a physician-led team, because the physician can make recommendations, but then the client or the patient has to go home and figure out how in the world am I going to implement that into my life. Well, that's where the coach comes in. And so many clinics now are bringing in a health coach as part of the team. I know one physician, you meet with him and your very next appointment is with the health coach. they're the ones who are doing all of the follow-up. And then you may check in with the doctor 6 months down the road or a year down the road, but all of your intermediate visits are with the health coach.
How many physicians on the peninsula are aware that we have a health coach that's now on the peninsula, and it's so interesting what it is that you do, that what actually happens during a health coaching session?
So the first session, we start out with, okay, where are you now? Tell me everything that's going on with you in terms of your health. Are there any other issues? And then where do you want to focus? Because I may get an idea, I'll be listening to all of their things that are going on, and I'll think, oh, well, we really need to focus on that. And they'll go, oh, I want to get more organized at work. Like, okay. So anyway, what is it that they want to work on? And then where is it that they want to be? And I'm talking about the big picture of what do you want your life to look like? Do you want to be out kayaking? Do you want to be able to play with your kids? Do you want to, what is it that you really want to do? And why is that important to you? What's the big deal if a year from now you're still down here where you are now instead of where you want to be? What's the big deal? Why not just stay there? To get them to really understand, because if you don't have a motivation, you're not going to try. Why should I make this extra effort to eat more healthy when I really like eating a McDonald's hamburger? So you've got to have that big why. So we try and establish that during the first session. And then we look at what are the things that are getting in your way. And it may be that you're overwhelmed with you're having to care for somebody, or you just don't have time. Maybe you're having to work 2 jobs. Maybe you just feel like, well, I'm only doing this because the doctor told me to. I don't really want to do that. So we look at what's getting in the way. And then the last thing that I like to look at in the first session is, what are your strengths? Because you've had successes in the past. How did you succeed in the past? And let's take those things that you used to succeed before. How can we apply them to this that you're struggling with, and maybe have some successes here? So that's the first session. After that, each session starts out with, okay, what's the win of the week? What did you win at? I don't care what you couldn't do. I want to know what you could do. And let's build on that. What worked? And that's where we really focus on what's working for you. What gets you excited? If they are struggling with something and they want to talk about it, fine. We will talk about those things. And maybe during the week, because they're working on this, that, or the other thing, something else comes up. And so maybe we need to address that. Or maybe they're working on something in particular, and the situation changes. It's like, okay, let's do an about face, and now we'll work on this. I mean, that happened to me, a client just last week. We had this whole thing. We were going down this road, making good progress, and situation changed, and so now we're looking at something completely different. So that's what happens. By the end of every session, I have my client select one goal for the week, maybe 2, but not more than that, because if you think you can do this, and this, well, you can't. One thing at a time. Get that, and when you get it, when you accomplish that, it feels so good, and then just make sure you celebrate. Make sure you say, yay me, I did it.
So how long do people typically work with a coach?
Well, change takes a whole lot longer than people think. And in coaching, we like to we think in terms of the stages of change. So the first stage of change is the pre-contemplation. That's when people don't even recognize they have a problem. My husband's in that place. And they think, I don't need a coach. Okay? Either they don't know they have a problem, or they think they can handle it themselves. Second stage is contemplation. So they're thinking, okay, well, maybe I can't handle this myself, or like, all right, I agree, this is an issue, fine, okay. So they're kind of in that recognition, that awareness stage. The next stage is preparation. So they're thinking, okay, I get it, I need a coach. Now I've got to figure out what I want to do. Or maybe it's not a coach. Maybe it's I give in, I'll start exercising. Whatever it is, they've made that decision, and now they're looking at the best way to do that. If they've decided they're working out, well, now they're looking at all of the gyms and seeing which one fits better. If they want a coach, then they're looking at all the different coaches that are available. If they want to start eating better, then maybe they're researching, do I want to do the Mediterranean diet? Do I want to do this? Whatever. So that's the preparation stage. Then the next stage is action. And that's where all the fun is. That's where the excitement is. And people usually come to me somewhere between the preparation and the action stage. They're in that phase. If they come any earlier to a coach, it gets really difficult to coach. They have to at least be in that preparation stage. So in the action stage, people are, things are happening. They're losing weight, they're exercising, they're getting their energy back. Everything is so exciting. And people are like, I've got this, they're just like, rah. But that's not the important stage. The important stage is maintenance, because anybody can get into that action stage. But then life hits. And if you aren't in the maintenance stage of change, where it is no longer something you have to think about every day, it's just part of who I am. I eat healthy. I am a person who eats healthy. Does that mean that I never eat junk? No, I do. But I don't go into a tailspin if I have a bowl of ice cream. So if it's deeply ingrained in me, that's the maintenance phase, and that's where you want to be. But what happens is that people reach that action phase, and like I said, it's exciting. They're seeing progress, and they're going, I've got this. And they step away from coaching. And then life throws them a curveball. Maybe they go on vacation and they eat everything on the smorgasbord, right? And now they've gained 10 pounds, and they're like, well, hell, I give up. I gained all that weight I lost. Or they've got some other stressor that comes along and they just can't cope anymore because they never made it to the maintenance stage. And that's why coaches prefer a longer coaching relationship, because we don't want to just get people started on a habit. We want to take them all the way to that maintenance stage so that it is ingrained in them, that they can weather the storms that life is going to throw at them, because I guarantee life will throw something at you that will knock you off course. It will happen. It happens to all of us. But if you're in the maintenance stage, then you'll go, yeah, okay, no big deal. Monday's another day. I can start all over again, and you're right back on the path. Okay?
Give us an idea of how you keep people motivated.
I don't. They keep themselves motivated. Okay? It's that progress that they're having that keeps them motivated. And if they start to fade, if they're starting to feel like I can't do this, then the thing that I do is I bring them back to their big why. You said this was important. You said that you wanted to be able to play with your grandchildren. You said you wanted to be able to travel Europe. You said you wanted to be able to do that. Is that still important to you?
Ooh, then you make people feel a little guilty.
Maybe I say it in a softer tone.
So, share an example of how coaching has helped a client.
Oh, I've got several stories, but this is my absolute favorite because it was just so amazing. This woman came to me because she wanted to lose some weight, and she wanted to start eating better. She had been in a phase in her life where she was fairly depressed, and her life had become completely sedentary. She went to work, came home, got on the couch. That was it. She didn't cook, didn't want to cook, didn't want to eat anything that her partner was making. So 90% of her meals were coming from fast food restaurants. Okay, so we started with something really small. We started with a goal of eating real food for breakfast 1 day a week. That was it. That's all she had to do. 1 day a week, have one healthy breakfast. Well, she did it, and then that turned into more breakfast, and eventually she was eating every breakfast was a healthy breakfast. Started then, okay, now lunches started getting healthier, dinner started getting healthier, and she and her partner started cooking more and more meals at home. Because she was eating real food instead of ultra-processed food, now she had energy. So now she started, well, I want to move a little bit. Started out with just gentle stretches. So she just did that for a while. That turned into a full-blown yoga routine that she did every night. She did yoga. She started walking at lunchtime. On the weekends, then she would go on hikes with her friend. And then something really interesting happened. The thing that happened next had nothing to do with exercise or eating better. She picked up crafts again. She had been a big crafter, and she hadn't done it for years because she'd been depressed and had no energy, and she picked that up again. She was a musician. She loved composing music and playing music. She picked up her guitar again. She got her keyboards fixed so she could play her keyboards. She and her partner, excuse me, I love this story. She and her partner signed up for dance lessons. Excuse me. And another thing that had been bothering her all this time is that during her depressive state, she had let her house go to hell in a handbasket, right? Everything was cluttered and messy and stuff, and she just didn't have the energy to face it. Well, she, with this new renewed spirit, she is like, I'm going to tackle the house. And she and her partner created games and challenges for each other, and they tackled one room at a time, got the whole house redone, and just everything was great. Then she went back to school because she was tired at her job, and she went back to finish her degree. And by the end of the year, she was eating probably 90 to 95% of her meals were home-cooked meals. She had lost 2 pant sizes. But that wasn't the change. The important change, the big change that this woman had, is that she was engaged in life again. So,
yeah. Well, that is a beautiful story. What's one simple thing that listeners can do today to improve their health?
If I were to say one thing, I would tell people to start paying attention to those things that we've been calling normal. So for you, maybe it's bloating in gas every day. Maybe it's you're exhausted by 2 p.m. Maybe you wake up exhausted even if you've had 8 hours of sleep. Maybe you're in pain all the time. I just did this post on my social media account and asked the same question, and a woman came back to me. The thing she's gotten used to is that it takes about 50 paces for her to straighten up after she's gotten up out of the car. So it's going to be different for everybody, but what is it that you have accepted as it's just the way it is now? Because what if it isn't? What if there's something that you can do about it? So my suggestion is pay attention, see what they are, and then ask yourself, when did this start? I mean, really, it's like, and do I really want to accept this? And what makes it better? And what makes it worse? And if I don't want to accept this, well, what would I like to do about it? So that's probably my best advice to everybody.
How can listeners learn more about, find out whether coaching is right for them? How do they get in touch with you?
Well, the best way to find out if coaching is best for you is to have a conversation. So in that conversation, we go over what's going on with you. My initial consultations are always complimentary because I don't want people to feel like they're under any pressure. But we look at what's going on with you, where you want to be, what you want to do, and see if coaching even makes sense, because there's a lot of people who just need some kind of acknowledgement that yes, they're on the right track. They've got a plan, but maybe I can tweak it a little bit for them, or maybe I can give them some resources that would help them. So there are those people that just need that just little nudge at like, yep, you're going, keep going, you're doing good. There's other people that I talk to that perhaps it makes more sense for them to go to either a different kind of practitioner or maybe a different kind of coach. For example, if somebody came to me with Crohn's disease, I'm perfectly capable of coaching them, but I know another coach who would be much more effective than I would be. So in that case, I would gladly refer them on. And in some cases, I've got something to offer for them or offer to them. So having that conversation is really, really important. And it also helps the client understand, it brings clarification to them what their actual problem might be. And, whether or not this is really important to them, because when we start talking, I drill down on that, like, how ready are you to start? Because remember those stages of change that I talked to, if they're just kind of kicking the tires now, they may not be ready yet. So we kind of determine those kinds of things. If people are interested in finding out more, then they can definitely go to my webpage, which is www.scbhealthcoaching.com. So S is in Sam, C is in Charlie, B is in Brown, scbhealthcoaching.com. And on there, they can listen to my story of how I got where I am, how I solved my problems, and there's a little button there they can push that will schedule a call with me. And like I said, they're no obligation calls. And if people aren't ready to go that route, then that's okay, because I give workshops all over town. I probably do 3 workshops a month. One of the workshops is virtual, so it's a Zoom conference that people can just get on. And the other ones, I am at Shipley every month on the third Thursday of the month at 10 o'clock. I do some topic that's related to brain health in some way, different, and it's not a lecture there. It's kind of just, we sit down and talk about it and discuss things, and so it's kind of sort of almost like group coaching, but not exactly. But I give other workshops, and I list all of my workshops on Nextdoor, the Clallam County Facebook page. They're listed there, and on the Chamber of Commerce calendar. So if anybody's interested, they can go to any of those places and they'll find me.
And if you would like to get in touch with Sherryl Chandley-Brown, who is a health coach, again, her website is scbhealthcoaching.com. And I want to thank you very much for coming in. I've learned something today. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a health coach, but I'm motivated, and I hope everybody out there is too.
All right.